last year, our colleague David Sanger and other colleagues of ours at the Times had reported that there were hundreds of millions of dollars in taxpayer money being spent to upgrade this plane. But that was always going to be the case. It was always going to be that there were going to be upgrades for this plane, which is being referred to as a bridge Air Force One. It was done, as we wrote on Saturday, in a huge rush to get this available for Trump to fly before the American 250th anniversary, birthday, whatever we call it. And it raises questions about what the trade-offs have been in terms of security and safety measures that are normal for an Air Force One that is built from the ground up. But Eugene, the other piece about this too that everyone keeps forgetting is that, or the White House certainly doesn't talk about now, President Trump has said that he is planning on taking this bridge plane with him, and it's going to be donated to his presidential library. And the model for that would be the Ronald Reagan Library in Simi Valley, California, except that plane had been decommissioned. This one is being upgraded and fitted with all of these bells and whistles, as the president put it. How are they going to do that? Are they going to take all of those out? And it's literally hundreds of millions of dollars, with the price tag still apparently going up.
Maggie, it's so interesting because I think people forget that Air Force One is like a flying White House.
Yeah.
It is a national security apparatus. It is not a presidential souvenir. So it strikes me that all of these upgrades are being made, all of these things happening to this plane. But it's my understanding that the president still is planning to take this plane with him when he leaves. And I mean, again, this is a flying White House. How is this? I think the American people do care about this. They care about the corruption and the grift. But I think your reporting is so important because it really lays it out starkly in just black and white for folks. And it feels to me like the White House and the people around the White House don't think that this is damaging to them because he is doing it out in the open for everybody to see.
It's one of the themes of the book that we write about is just number one, the enormous amount of and the vast scope of the self-dealing, the self-enrichment by this president, the self-enrichment by his family, by the Witkoff family, by the Lutnick family. And this is already the wealthiest cabinet and senior advisor corps in American history. So you start out there. They have been in their own protected unreality bubble. They have believed that because Trump survives so many scandals or bad stories, and because corruption allegations didn't really hurt him in term one in their, that he can get through basically anything and that the public already knows who he is. But you are right that when it starts becoming apparent how much money is being spent, when it starts becoming apparent how much money the president has made, and again, this is something that we get into in the book, it becomes harder for his voters to dismiss it, especially as he is still, we have this private polling that we got hold of from inside the Trump team in the book. The polling internally in Trump world is very clear that the affordability crisis, the fact that Americans feel as if Trump has not kept his promise on what he would do when he came into office to improve their lives, that's showing up in their own polling. They know that. And the other question that I have about this plane and that I don't think is clear, and we touched on this in the book, but there are other questions to answer here. Again, we do reference this, but most people around him fully believe that his plan is to fly this plane himself. This plane is huge. There's not typical hangars that can accommodate it. It's really hard to see how it's going in the library of the planned tower that he's building as a hotel in Miami as his presidential library. All of this is going to be hard to overlook. And I agree with you that people are seeing many, many more examples of it than they had before.
Which is why, Maggie, when this particular grift, when I hear Donald Trump is that they're talking about, well, this is a bridge my behind. There ain't no bridge. I guarantee you this boy's going to be flying this plane before it lands anywhere near wherever he decides to put his presidential, whatever he wants to call it. But that's that. He shouldn't have the plane in the first place. And that to me is, I think, to the back end of your point, is something that hopefully a future Congress will take a closer look at and spend a little bit more time than the current Congress has on a little thing called the Emoluments Clause. I want to shift to something that, again, is equally important because it affects what you do. What you and your colleagues at the time and our friends here in Washington do at the various papers that are represented here. And that is to tell the stories of the nation and to share those stories through their reporting. You have the president yet again engaging in a defamation lawsuit against the New York Times. Bloomberg noted yesterday, quote, the federal judge overseeing President Trump's $15 billion. I think he just makes up numbers, by the way. Just my thought on that. $15 billion defamation lawsuit against the New York Times deferred ruling on the newspaper's request to toss the case and instead is allowing Trump to revise his complaint. The president has until August 27th to file an amended suit. Defendants in this case are Susan Craig, Russ Butner, Peter Baker, and Michael S. Schmidt and Penguin Random House. You're not one of the reporters listed in the lawsuit, but after your book came out, the president took note by posting, Maggie has made a living off her bad reporting and will pay the price when our multi-billion-dollar lawsuit against the failing New York Times gets to court, which should not be that long. Just your thoughts, Maggie. I mean, look, you're doing your job. The First Amendment still matters, even though it doesn't to Donald Trump. How do you and your colleagues suffer through this BS from this administration when at the same time he's doing this, he's calling and trying to get your attention to drop stories, and members of his administration want you to know what they're doing and want you to tell a particular slant on the stories that they want to see?
Well, in terms of your last question, we're going to report what we believe is accurate, and they can make their efforts to try to get us to write something a certain way, which every administration that I have ever covered has done at every level, whether it's the presidency, whether it's a governor, senator, mayor, and that's fine. They can do that, but that has no bearing on whether we're going to, listen to them or whether we are going to say that they think that they're offering some version of facts that we're not aware of. We are going to write the truth, and we understand that is going to bother presidents in general and power in general. This president has reacted quite aggressively to any coverage that he doesn't like, and most of the coverage, and you know this, Michael, he doesn't like. So, and that has been the case throughout most of his life, long before he was in elected office. He has been using a couple of cudgels, and again, this is a theme that we write about in the book, to attack various industries, and it has these bullying campaigns and retribution campaigns against various industries. But one is this inside-outside effort where he sues somebody privately, and then he also is using the government. And we have seen that with the EOs against law firms, which didn't hold up very well in court, but which they got what they wanted out of them, which was a bunch of negative stories for the firms in question and concerns by those firms about taking on certain clients.